Yeah.
Ready for your close-up?
Yeah.
Here we go. Formula Drift 2022, Darren Kelly. What's up guys, Larry Chen here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're featuring, I'm just gonna say it, I think it's probably one of the most craziest drift cars I've ever seen, I've ever photographed. Mr. Darren Kelly, all the way from New Zealand. This is his first time competing in Formula Drift. How are you?
Good to be here. Finally on the ground in LA. It's good, I'm excited.
After all this no sleep, after all this hard work, you finally landed here, and now we're on the FD Long Beach course. What are you feeling right now?
To be honest, it's still setting in. It has been one of the craziest weeks of my career. I turned up about a week and a half ago. This thing was in a million pieces. The engine was in Atlanta, we were in Phoenix, the car's got hardly anything in it. We knew what we had to get done, and we had all the pieces to do it, but time was not on our side. So there was a lot of sleepless nights, but we got it running. We got it tested yesterday, and we're here today. So that was the main goal, and it looks like we're able to compete.
So you're not the first Kiwi to compete in Formula Drift, and you're certainly not the last. But we definitely miss the Kiwi presence, specifically Mike Wadette. But we're so glad to have you in the series, because it's just so cool. For me, at least, I feel like it's a very worldwide series. So many drivers from all over the world come to the U.S. to compete in Formula Drift, and now you've brought, I don't even know if I would call it a machine gun to a knife fight, but you brought like a rocket launcher to a knife fight. This is so crazy. I mean, I understand this is your first time competing in an Aston Martin,
yep.
But and there's going to be teething issues, but the fact of the matter is, it's an Aston Martin. It's not it's actually an Aston Martin,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is, I mean, underneath it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So what did this start life as?
So originally this started as a GT4 car, so it had the roll cage and everything in it. Was built to a really good spec. We've taken a lot of the car out of that and redesigned everything from scratch, and to do with steering, rear geometry kits. Obviously nothing is off the shelf with something like this, and it's the first time that we know of it being done. So it was a huge challenge, but fortunately the guys who built this are geniuses, and a massive credit to them. It's something that we tested yesterday to be so good out of the box. Shows its potential. It has got a long way to go, but it is definitely well in the ballpark. Okay,
let's just start off with the centerpiece, the engine bay, or I think it's pretty much just the whole front end.
Yeah.
Let's take it apart,
yeah.
And I want to show these guys how crazy this build is.
Yeah,
it's kind of insane how much just the front cowl hides.
Yeah.
Jeez. And even that piece itself is so nice.
Yeah.
All carbon fiber. Amazing. Very functional. So
Makes it easy to work on the car.
Yeah, let's put it down carefully and let's check out this build. I'm fully blown away. First of all, Tyler's ears are blown out because he thought it was a good idea to stand behind it. While Darren started it. I don't even know where to start. There's just so much going on here.
Yeah.
What are we looking at? What motor is this?
So originally these chassis come out with the V8 twin turbo. We wanted to, obviously coming up here, building something so crazy, unique, we wanted to build something, put an engine in it that was also as unique. And this is a V12, which came naturally aspirated, but we bolted 2 superchargers to it just for the extra horsepower. Reason we went supercharger over turbo was because the turbo bolting onto the exhaust, you lose too much of that tone that the V12 has, and it quietens it down too much. So we were like, well, we could still achieve boost by putting superchargers on it, which will keep the sound and the note of the exhaust. So it worked really well. This thing sounds crazy. High up in the RPM. So I'm excited to show people this weekend what it sounds like.
I'm also going to say now, this is the loudest FD car, without a doubt. Okay, so second place now is Justin Pollock in his Mustang, okay? Third place, I think, is Ori Bakchis in his S15. First place, without a doubt, is this thing. It just sounds so loud and it's ear-piercingly loud. All of the neighbors here, everyone's going to be woken up. If any of these people try to sleep in, good luck. That's not going to happen. Tomorrow morning, when you guys go out for practice, this thing is going to really shake some windows.
Yeah.
So, okay, how many liters is this engine?
Currently, this is a 6-litre. We do have another engine in the build, which will be a 6.8. That one will have a billet crank and everything. We'll be able to get a little bit more horsepower out of it and push a bit more boost into it. So we would have liked to have had that done from the beginning, but it's time restraints and delays with things has been a global problem. So we just did what we could to get it here, and this is still capable. And it still sounds good. So those are the two most important things.
So I've driven Aston Martin's press vehicles with this motor in NA form, and it's already insane. Well, I'm not a really big supercar guy. What is this model?
So this is the Aston Martin Vantage, but they convert them to the GT4 and GT3 chassis, which they race in at the IMSA series. Like next weekend, there'll be these in the GT3 class. So the GT3 is a couple of, like the next spec up. This was the easiest platform for us to start with and essentially work a little bit backwards from. Obviously all the suspension geometry and everything we designed from scratch, but it was a really good base platform to begin with. So it just helped with our timeline. This has been a 14-month project and something that we've had to figure out every little piece of the entire step of the way. So it was just a better platform to begin with.
Yeah, because you're doing things backwards from what the traditional Formula Drift car. It's either a street car or it's a bare chassis, right? That it's like a body on white that they get from a manufacturer.
Yeah.
That potentially could be turned into a street vehicle, but this was never a street vehicle to begin with. This never had a VIN number. This was an actual race car from the factory.
Yeah.
And you've gone backwards. And I mean, traditionally on the Long Beach Grand Prix course, like you said, if this car was here, it would be racing in IMSA.
Yeah.
But now it's racing in Formula Drift. The crazy thing to me is a lot of that stuff has transferred over, right? The GT4 parts, right? So like I noticed a lot of the carbon, a lot of the body bits.
Yeah.
Or all of the body bits, right?
Yeah, majority of it. The only thing we've really changed is, so the GT4 is a bit narrower in the front, obviously with the steering geometry and kit that we've built for it. It pushes everything out as it does with all steering kits. So we went to the GT3 front, which was quite a bit wider, and then we had to add some rear flares to house the big 295 GT radials. So
just insane. So have you had a chance to dyno this in this spec?
Yeah, it's around 650 horse currently. We do have the ability to turn it up being supercharged, so we can get a little bit more power out of it. We do want to, obviously when we build the new engine, that'll be a lot higher, that'll be around 1,000. From experience, that's sort of the happy place for not having too much power, having it controllable and drivable, and then still being able to dial the grip in.
And that's pretty much what you need in Formula Drift.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with this, you did this as a Band-Aid to get in.
Yeah, pretty much. And
it's a learning year.
Yeah.
And then once you do get the other engine in with 1,000 horsepower, then that's kind of when you can start playing with the competition.
Yeah, like obviously this year is going to be spent learning the tracks, learning setups for it, modifying the car, perfecting things that we know there's going to be things that we haven't got right straight off the bat. This is an extremely unique chassis with no development in any way. So it's going to be a big learning year, but we thought streets of Long Beach, it's not a high traction surface, so I think we'll get away with what we have. Hopefully we'll have more for Atlanta, because that's going to be a track where you do need that horsepower getting up the hill.
But this is just so insane to me that this cast piece is just sitting here and not connected to anything. And Penske shocks, oh my God, I can't believe how crazy this is. So how much of this did you have to actually make?
Pretty much everything. So everything from bolting, bolt position from the chassis. Obviously can't modify anything within bolting positions, but everything had to be engineered.
What about the knuckle? That looks pretty unique.
Yeah, so we created everything in CAD, and that was just so we were able to see the how it was working and making sure that everything was going to clear and when under travel and everything, so we could put it in the car and hopefully have minimal development and changes to do once it was running.
So cool. And those headers.
Yeah, those I had to put those in the other night, and it's definitely not a fun job. They've all got to go in order, and there's literally not even millimeters to get everything in. So it's a tight fit.
It's basically two supercharged 2Js next to each other.
Yeah. Well, it's almost, so everyone was pretty excited about me coming to FD. A lot of people thought I was going to be bringing my R35 with the RB in it. I guess we're technically still sticking to 6-cylinder if you count them as two 6-cylinders. But this thing sounds incredible, and I think everyone's going to be stoked with seeing this out on track just as much as
an absolute showstopper.
Yeah.
Let's start moving to the back, because
Yeah.
there's still more things I want to talk about,
Yeah.
but I feel like I'm going to spend all day there. So this is just a little wider than the GT4 came,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so we just had to modify that slightly. Things just ended up being a little bit wider than what we could keep within the confines of the chassis. So
Do you
small
know?
modifications.
Do you know the weight class that you made it into?
295
Okay.
tyre, so which is what we were sort of aiming for. We think like if we could get the car weighed up to being around that, and we thought that would be the good tyre rather than trying to get onto a 315 or anything bigger. That we thought that might upset the geometry of what we'd created.
So this is going to be maybe a dumb question, but this was for the air jacks, right?
Yeah, originally, yes.
Formula drift cars are not allowed to have air jacks.
No. Yeah.
So then what did you have to do?
So we had to take all of that out, which actually worked in our favour because that would have put us heavier than we needed to be. So we're within weight as it is, and those are 100 pounds or more. So
What look at what happened to Formula Drift. You got foreigners coming here bringing the supercars. We got Federico here with a Ferrari V12 turbocharged.
Yeah,
and then
taking
this
over.
is just so I just love what Formula Drift has become. I think it's so cool.
Yeah,
it's a gathering place for all things cool.
Yeah, I guess that's the cool thing with drifting, is that you literally are free to build, get crazy and be as unique as you can. And,
Yeah, that is definitely my favorite part of drifting.
Yeah.
Because there's no horsepower regulation
Yeah.
or anything like that. It is so cool because it's not traditional finish line racing. So
Yeah.
what are we looking at in the rear end here?
So we've got as most cars will have here, the Winters rear end. Very similar setup to Matt Field's car, so we run like a transaxle type setup with a torque tube, RTS gearbox and Winters. These cars come transaxle.
RTS, so it's a sequential then.
Yeah, 6-speed
Okay.
sequential.
6-speed sequential, and then it's just a
The-
lock, no LSD.
Yeah,
Right.
so full spool
Yeah,
diff
full
as well.
spool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we had a lot of space in the rear end, so it made sense that we put the gearbox back there to try to get some weight back in the rear end, so balance it out a little bit.
So traditionally with this car, the gearbox was in the front or in the middle?
No, it's always in the rear.
Oh, it was
for
always
these.
in the rear.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
got it.
Yeah, so that's where it has a lot more room around the tunnel, and we can fit it in quite easily. So
Got it.
it worked in our favour.
Incredible. I can't believe it. It's so funny because I feel like the wheel and tire setup, even though it's a huge wheel and tire, it looks small compared to the vehicle itself.
Yeah.
Because of how big the vehicle is. So why is it that it has this? Is it because it was all-wheel drive from the factory, or?
So we had to use custom knuckles, and when we made the custom knuckles, we just found easy to get wheel bearings, and this was just the option that we had, and we ended up putting them all four corners. That it makes it easy for carrying spares and being able to replace things at the track rather than. Obviously, Aston Martin parts are very hard to come by and expensive, so we just tried to reduce any issues that we might face.
So then, I noticed this is a left-hand drive race car.
Yeah.
So, are you comfortable with driving left-hand drive?
Yeah, well, I haven't driven a lot of left-hand drive cars previously. I did race one of the GT3 cars for 2 seasons of the GT3 series, and that was left-hand drive. So proximity-wise, that helped me familiarise with position of the car, and you feel relatively natural once you're in the car. That sort of becomes a sixth sense for you. So that wasn't too bad. With the GT3 car, it's paddle shift, so I didn't have to take my hand off, whereas this I do. But I converted my sim at home to left-hand drive about 2 months before I left to come up here, and done as much practice as I could, which helped me get familiar with just changing gear, handbraking, getting that muscle memory back in place. So jumped in it yesterday, felt super natural as soon as you start driving. So not as much as a factor as I thought it was going to be.
This is the thing that's the crazy part about this build. Like, all of this stuff is factory from Aston Martin as a race car.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that all of this stuff is unchanged.
Yeah.
And you were able to use that. Even the cage is just so intricate and so cool.
Like, yeah, we tried to keep as much as we could. We did have to make small modifications to the center panel and around the front, but tried to keep it in there because it is such a cool piece. And obviously making the center panel that houses the handbrake, and we've got a different PDM unit, so, and had to have a shifter. So there's been a small modifications here and there, but tried to retain it as much as we could.
Have you ever seen a drift car that looks like this? I've never seen a drift car that looks like this. I've never seen a drift car with doors like this. I couldn't imagine how much these doors cost.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I try not to know any of that information.
This is not a door skin, sir. Like, usually these guys just run a skin here that is paper thin, it weighs nothing, but this is just so crazy. I mean, I cannot believe the quality of this. I mean, this is straight up factory race car. I mean, we've seen this kind of level of build, you know, with the GT3 Porsches, right, or GT4, and also even the like the GT2 RS race cars. They're just so clean and done so well. It looks like from the factory, because it is from the factory. But that's including all the welds, all the stitch. Oh, even this stuff, this aluminum tape. This is something I learned recently, that they do this. It just makes it a little cleaner. Like, I notice like a lot of the M Sport cars, the rally cars, they do simple things like that just to keep the race car as clean as possible. And the fact that I'm noticing it on this, a Formula Drift car, is something else.
Yeah, the small details that when you look around this thing, you're just like, there's a lot to take in, and it's definitely come together well, and the guys building it have done an incredible job at everything that they've had input on, as well as incorporating as much of the factory components as possible.
So is this rear firewall something that was from the factory?
That one we had to make, because originally these do come with a different style of that seals the cockpit off, and they have different rules and regulations for the circuit racing series, but because we put the radiator in the back, we had to modify things and seal things differently. Got it,
because the V8 had the radiator in the front.
So everything was in the front. There was coolers and stuff in the back for oil and stuff, and trans coolers, but we wanted to get as much of that out of the front as possible, and it helps us to put that weight in the rear.
Seriously, when I say it's one of the craziest drift builds, it might honestly be the craziest drift build. Because this started life as a, who knows how much these cars cost? Do you know how much these cars cost from the factory?
I don't know exactly. I have a rough idea, but I have no idea.
What's your best guess?
I've heard, I don't know. I know a GT3 car is north of sort of, $500,000, which is
$500,000 US.
Which this is, being a GT4, will be cheaper, but I have no idea where it would be at now. It's had a lot of work going into it, and
so without a doubt, not even just blinking an eye, this is the most expensive Formula Drift car from the factory. Maybe, I don't know if it's the most after the fact, as in Formula Drift trim, but because we don't know, who knows what some of the other teams have spent on the cars, but without a doubt, this was the most compared to, you see some of the other, like, how much is an S14 or a S15 or whatever,
They're definitely climbing in price. If you want to start building one of them now, it gets tricky.
Even this stuff, like, this is real race car stuff.
So and
cool.
We've had to go through and rewire this entire thing, just to suit everything that we've put into it, to suit drifting. Obviously, the sports couldn't really be much different, and in terms of circuit racing to drifting, like, it wasn't. Sometimes you think it would have been easier to start with a a chassis like you
Yeah. So
traditionally
why
would.
didn't you guys start with just a regular Aston Martin?
Just availability. The race team that built this car that we're a part of, the Harder Racing, they race in the GT3 series, they race in IMSA, they also have GT4 cars, so they have a lot of experience with those chassis and availability to them. So that's sort of how we came across the chassis, and then it was originally just a crazy idea that got thrown out there, and me thinking like, oh yeah, that would be crazy, that would be cool to do, not thinking that much more of it, and then getting a call from the team manager and saying, how are we going to start building this thing? And and spend the next 3 months trying to get into figuring everything out and drawing it in CAD and making this car virtually before we could make it in reality.
Even the pedal box, like, just...
Yeah, which also a cool feature is that this can move completely forward and backwards. So if we need to, it's just got the customization, especially for me being remotely helping with this build, to turn up and not know where everything is going to be positioned. It's so hard to know if a car is going to feel right from halfway around the world. So little features like that have made it a lot easier.
Can we take a look at the back here?
Yeah.
So, does this come up?
Yeah, it's actually still got the shocks in it,
Whoa.
so that makes it nice and easy.
Okay, so this is something that we've been seeing in Formula Drift for a while, but more recently, just a lay flat radiator, just keep the weight a little down, right, versus standing it up.
Yeah. And just utilizing the space that we have.
Yeah.
We've also got the oil cooler up there, so that's engine and then around a 40 litre 10 gallon gas tank, and just trying to mount all that strategically to have the weight in the correct positions.
This is just so crazy to me, the cast parts
Yeah,
that are just bolted onto the chassis.
it's a good thing and a bad thing. Unfortunately, there's not much forgiveness in aluminium cast pieces, so if it had a big hit, then we would have to replace more than you traditionally would with a steel chassis, and it can be damaged quite easily. So
Yeah, so one of the things that we always talk about in Formula Drift is the bumper budget, right?
yeah,
This, when you're scraping walls with this, I mean,
yeah, we've
this
got a
can't be
taillight
cheap.
budget here.
Yeah, this can't be cheap.
Yeah, it's
But-
we've tried to make it as drift spec as possible to be repairable. We're going to get molds done of stuff to make them out of different materials to try to make them more durable or
Yeah, because
easier
this
to
is the
repair.
original GT4 stuff.
Yeah, which does all come off, but
Okay.
it is, if you get a decent hit in
Incredible.
here, it's going to be difficult. So we will eventually take all of this out and try to make something a little bit, like if we sustain some damage, we might have to redesign it, and then we'll have a little bit more experience with the tracks and knowing where the damage occurs and how impactful it is. Long Beach isn't a great track to come to first to figure that out, but
Yeah, it would have been better if you came last year when we started at Atlanta.
yeah. But yeah, we had to experience it at some stage.
So cool. I don't even know what else to say. I mean, there's not much. One of the things I really wanted to commend you guys, them being a race team that races in IMSA and races sports cars, the craftsmanship and how clean everything is put together is very, very evident.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
Yeah. When I turned up at the shop and I actually got to be hands-on on the car and see it, those are the details that really stand out. Like the things you can't see in.
I mean, like the fact that they made all of this stuff, the firewall, look, this.
Yeah.
The fact that it's curved perfectly and it all fits, and I think there's even a window there for whatever reason.
Yeah, little inspection port down
Yeah, a
there.
little inspection port. But even this, the oil cooler, the fact that it's part of this whole thing is part of the cooling system.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah,
I
and
love it.
We're relatively limited on space. It's a big car externally, but a lot of it is chassis, and it takes up a lot of where you would normally have either space to cut out or to drop coolers down. So we've had to utilize almost every inch of this thing to actually fit everything we need to into it. So they've done an incredible job, that's for sure.
Man, I said it before, I say it again, just when you think you've seen everything in motorsports, in racing or in drifting, you just get surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. So this used to be where they fill up the car and
Yeah.
pit stops,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So you had to block this off.
Yeah. So they
Um,
come with blanks for when you switch sides. So they have a filler on one side, and some tracks they have to switch it to the other. So we've just put 2 blanks in and got a central fill unit. So still quick fill tank, but yeah, it was just easier for routing purposes.
Oh,
considering
I
the
see.
firewall.
You could still do it
Yeah.
because there's no window here
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
You could just still fill it, but you don't have to fill it from the sides.
Yeah, and just
Got it.
purely because we had to modify that firewall and bring everything back a little bit. So running a pipe through there was a bit trickier. Then you'd have to seal that off, and
Yeah, because also another thing is the GT3s and 4s, they didn't come with a passenger seat, right?
no, they have a whole computer module unit down there, and they don't really have an option for mounting a seat there. So Formula Drift rule is actually that you have to have a passenger seat. So that was another thing that we had to create as well. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Really good luck to you. We cannot wait to see you drive all year and years beyond that.
yeah, I
It's
can't wait.
a pleasure to meet you. This is just such a cool car. I just can't believe how cool this is. I love the rotiforms too.
Yeah,
Are those forged?
yep.
Love it. So are you gonna run those kind of wheels the whole year, you think?
Yeah, these are what we got made originally for fitment. Once we know that everything works well, we'll get more made, and yeah, we'll stick with them.
Jeez, love it so much. You just have to appreciate it, huh?
Yeah.
I bet you haven't even had time to appreciate it. at
Not
all.
really, not
Yeah.
really. It's been in so many pieces for majority of the time that I've been here. I still look at every little piece of it, and I just like still taking it in.
So cool. Well, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Just what a feature, man. This is what I love. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you guys want to support us directly, go to LarryChenPrints.com to grab a print. I'll probably throw a print of this up there so you guys can have a piece of this car for yourself that I printed myself. I'll sign every one of them. But yeah, definitely appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video.